Good morning for those of you who are joining us from North America and from Japan and the Asia who are chiming in. My name is Yuki Tatsumi. I'm a director of Japan program and co-director of the East Asia program here at Stimson Center. And I'm actually also sending a greeting to you from Tokyo. Excited to be joined by Mr. Jun Osawa from the International Peace Institute, Nakasone Institute of Peace. I think your institution's name changing
That's
a lot,
right.
so it's hard to track. But Institution for Peace and Nakasone Institute for Peace, and Dr. Kazuto Suzuki from University of Tokyo, and Dr. Yasuhito Fukushima from a National Institute of Defense Studies, currently on sabbatical on a sunny and bright West Coast. We are letting more people into this webinar, so we will get started in a couple of minutes. So please bear with us, and we will get started in about 9:34 on the Washington, D.C. time, which is 10:34 p.m. in Tokyo. So bear us with a few more minutes. Okay, one more minute to start. Okay. Okay, so I think people are still maybe trickling in a little bit. Greeting to all of you. For those of us for those of our friends who are joining from Washington, D.C. and for the rest of the United States, good morning and happy Monday. And for those of you who are joining us from Japan and the rest of Asia, good evening, and I hope your evenings are going well. My name is Yuki Tatsumi. I'm a co-director of East Asia program and the director of Japan Studies here at Stimson Center. And I am delighted to this the 3 web series to promote our latest publication, which is a compilation of the commentary regarding the Japanese new security strategy, which was announced in December 2022 in the various fields, which varies everything from the US-Japan alliance to today's topic, new domains, which is space, cyber, and last but not least, economic security. Those of you who have joined us right on the mark at the beginning of the seminar, I am delighted to host 3 of our authors that wrote a commentary on the respective topic. Yasuhito Fukushima, National Institute of Defense Studies, who contributed a piece on space issues. Mr. Jun Osawa from Nakasone Heiwa Peace Institute, who contributed a piece on the cybersecurity, Suzuki, who contributed a piece on economic security from University of Tokyo, who actually has the background from the place that he used to teach, which is the University of Hokkaido. And I think I just got a cue that I'm freezing time to time. So if my voice starts feeling like, if I get another ping that my connection is unstable, I may turn off to stabilize my connection a little bit, but I will stay through as a moderator, obviously. So please don't be alarmed. It's just a technical glitch. Again, today's discussion will focus on the Japan's new domain. And we already heard a couple of weeks ago from two of our authors, Dr. Fukuda and Professor Sakata, on the Northeast Asia focus discussion. And we will wrap up this webinar series at the end of this week on Friday, the partnerships, and we should get your announcement for that webinar shortly if you haven't got one already. So with that, I would just go on quick ground rules. I will start off by posing a couple of open, and then they will respond to me. We'll do 2 rounds of those. And then after that, I will open it up to the general Q&A with the rest of you. And when you ask your questions, please do utilize Q&A box on the webinar, on the Zoom screen. Please do not, I repeat, do not use chat box, because I will not be able to monitor those. And I would actually like to save the chat box from my communication team that I'm having a network connection issue. So please do utilize only Q&A. Otherwise, I will not be able to recognize your question. And please feel free to start putting your question as soon as you don't have to wait until all the speakers are done with their opening discussion rounds with me, and so that we can just get right into the Q&A with the rest of you. I would like to pick up as many questions from the participants this morning as I always do. So with that, welcome, gentlemen. Thank you again for joining us this from various time zones. So I think what I would like to do is to ask each of you about Japan's new national security strategy in your own respective field that you have contributed your piece. So I would like to start with you, Fukushima-san, on the area of space security, and I will wrap up this first round by coming to Suzuki-san to do a clean hitter at the last one to talk about the economic security. So that, Fukushima-san, if you can tell us a little bit about this and Japan's new national security strategy, what it talks about when it comes to the space policy, and what the implication might be.
Well, thank you for having me, Tatsumi-san. And it is a great pleasure for me to participate in this webinar together with Suzuki-sensei and Osawa-sensei. And indeed, national security space issues are getting more attention in Japan. And to begin with, let me briefly explain the progress made in the last 10 years. And then I would like to highlight notable elements in the new three strategic documents. For more than 4 decades, the Japan Self-Defense Forces, or JSDF, have been using space services such as weather forecasting and satellite communications. But it was only after the enactment of the Basic Space Law in 2008 that the JSDF started to consider building its own space capabilities. Against this background, over the past decade, Japan has planned and implemented dedicated space programs for defense purposes. Recognizing outer space as a national security agenda, Japan's first National Security Strategy, or NSS, in 2013 stated that Japan would build its own system for space surveillance. In addition, the Japan Ministry of Defense, or JMOD, launched 2 dedicated communication satellites in 2017 and 2018. They became the first satellites owned by the JMOD, although the private sector operates those satellites through a private finance initiative. Japan's defense efforts further intensified with the 2018 National Defense Program Guidelines, or NDPG. The NDPG introduced a new defense concept of cross-domain operations and positioned space as a new domain alongside the cyber and the electromagnetic spectrum. The NDPG prioritized the investment of resources in those domains to achieve seamless cross-domain operations. As for specific missions and capabilities, the 2018 NDPG stated that the JSDF would conduct space surveillance not only from the ground, but also from space. In addition, the NDPG introduced a new mission to ensure superiority in the use of space and established that the JSDF would work to strengthen capabilities to ensure mission assurance and also disrupt an adversary's command, control, communications, and information, or C3I. To implement these missions of space surveillance and ensuring superiority in the use of space, the Air Self-Defense Force, or ASDF, in 2020 created the Space Operations Squadron as the first JSDF unit dedicated to the space domain. In 2022, the ASDF created the Space Operations Group as a higher echelon unit to command the Space Operations Squadron and other units. 10 years after the publication of the 2013 NSS, now the Space Operations Group is supposed to start operating its own space surveillance system in fiscal year 2023. Having explained the past 10 decades progress, now I would like to highlight notable elements in the latest 3 strategic documents. The 2022 NSS does not change the direction of Japan's defense space policy over the past decade. But the strategy, together with the National Defense Strategy and also Defense Build-Up Program, will substantially enhance these efforts. The latest NSS contains several notable elements which were not included in the 2013 NSS. One is the specification of enhanced cooperation between the JSDF and the Japan Aerospace Exploration Agency, or JAXA. This showed the growing collaboration between the JSDF and JAXA over the past decade. For example, in addition to personnel exchanges between the two organizations, now the JSDF is collaborating with JAXA to develop a satellite to surveil other satellites and space debris. The second new item refers to expanding the development of capabilities to disrupt the opposition space use. Although the acquisition of capabilities to hinder space-based C3I was already included in the 2018 NDPG, it is notable that the 2022 NSS states that such capabilities will be strengthened. By hindering enemy space use, the JSDF intends to disrupt land, sea, and air operations to prevent an invasion of Japan. Thirdly, the 2022 NSS states that the government will actively utilize the private sector's space technologies and foster the space industry. In this context, the NSS includes the construction of satellite constellations as a specific item. Namely, said satellite constellations will be utilized for intelligence, surveillance, reconnaissance, and targeting, or ISRT, to operationalize standard defense capabilities. Moreover, the JMOD JSDF intends to considerably expand the size and budget of its space-related organizations and programs. The National Defense Strategy includes the restructuring and rebranding of the ASDF to the Air and Space Self-Defense Force. The Defense Build-Up Program also states that a space dedicated unit commanded by a general officer will be created in the ASDF. Those announcements are astonishing, considering there was no such dedicated unit 3 years ago. On top of that, the JMOD plans to allocate approximately $7.5 billion for space-related efforts over the 5 years commencing fiscal year 2023, more than doubling the ministry's annual space budget. I'll stop there. Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much. Osawa-san, what's going on in cyber? Obviously, that is a renewed or new new national security strategy.
Thank you, Tatsumi-san. Thank you very much for inviting me to this Monday morning seminar. So I think it is better to share some of the slides instead of my face video, because it is the Monday morning. So every audience would like to have the some kind of informative way. So could you see the slideshow? Yeah. So I will briefly touch upon with the cyber issues in the new national security strategy. There are two significant changes in the cyber area of the current national security strategy compared to the previous one. The first is development of posture for information warfare. And the second is the introduction of active cyber defense in the cybersecurity policy. The war in Ukraine took place during the revision process of the national security strategy. The war has the characteristic of the hybrid warfare, which consisting of physical combat, information warfare, and cyber attack. And this has a significant impact on the national security debates in Tokyo last year. In the cyber domain, I think in the new national security strategy, there is some kind of the description of the background and the security environment. They are mainly focusing on some of the hybrid warfare, especially the security issue between the contingency and peacetime. So in the cyber domain, the new security strategy reflects these kind of recognition about the background and security environment changes. So So the new cybersecurity strategy focusing on the seamless protect the Japan cyber arena and national security posture. So LDP proposal released last April describe urgent need to development a posture for information warfare as in light of Russia's aggression against Ukraine this year. Preparation for the information warfare is the urgent issue. In response to the debate on the need to deal with information warfare, the new national security strategy described the creation of the organization within the government to deal with the information warfare, as a structure will be established within the government to aggregate and analyze information and disinformation and other originated from abroad. So, and actually, in the new national cybersecurity strategy, there is a few description about the new posture of the against the information warfare. But reflecting the new this new strategy in the fiscal year 2023 budget, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs plan to use AI to enhance monitoring of the information space and strengthen intelligence analysis. And the Ministry of Defense is also planning to introduce an automatic information gathering and analysis system using AI technology to grasp the situation of information warfare. So in another side, the cybersecurity policy, regarding to the issue of the active cyber defense, the LDP proposal last year described the cyber response strategy as it is necessary to consider the implementation of active cyber defense against the attacker from abroad. This recommendation are reflected in the national security strategy as follows. Japan will introduce active cyber defense for eliminating in advance the possibility of serious cyber attacks that may cause national security concerns. And to implement active cyber defense, National Center for Incident Readiness and Strategy for Cybersecurity, we call it the NISC. NISC will be constructively structured to establish a new cybersecurity organization which will comprehensively coordinate policies in the field of cybersecurity and will command the cyber unit of the Japan Self-Defense Force and the Policy Cyber Unit. And the number of the cyber personnel in the previous MTDP midterm defense program is around 1,000, but in response to the direction of the higher level national strategic document, in the new defense building up program, the Ministry of Defense will train about the 4,000 cyber warrior, and in addition, the 16,000 cyber capable personnel within 5 years. In addition, several laws will be revised to implement active cyber defense. I think the telecommunication law and unauthorized computer access prohibition law will be revised in the near future to enable the Japanese government to conduct administrative interception, which is allowed to Western country, but it's not permitted in Japan now. So I will stop the first question here and hands to Professor Suzuki. Tatsumi-san.
Tatsumi-san, should I go or what? You're muted. Hello. Well, since moderator is gone, and probably Osawa-san has passed it baton to me, so I'll just go on. Oh yes. So let me just talk about what happened in these new 3 documents which were published in last December. This is a new attempt. Well, this is a revise of the 2013 National Security Strategy, and the concept of the economic security has not existed in 2013 case, and neither the 2018 National Defense Program guidelines. So this is a brand new element of introducing in the national security strategy. However, the concept of the economic security has only exist in the National Security Strategy document and not in the National Defense Strategy, nor the Defense Build-Up Plan. So there is only a mentioning of the economic security in only at the highest level of the national strategy, national security strategy. And the reason why Japan has been involved in this concept, Japan has elaborated this concept of the economic security is mainly because of the, well, first initially there was a bitter experience of the 2010, the Chinese exercise of stopping the export of the rare earth mineral to Japan, which are aiming to damage the Japanese major industry, which is the automobile industry. And these rare earth minerals are used for building up or manufacturing the hybrid cars. So it was a deliberate attempt to put pressure on Japan, and to that was after the incident that the fishing boat has collided with the Coast Guard vessel in around the Senkaku Island. So it was a combination of the territorial dispute and the political dispute as well. And China is using the economic means to put pressure on Japan. So from that experience, Japan learned that the security is not just the military threats. The economic coercion is another type of the threat to the security of the nation, and it is extremely important to recognize the impact of the such attempt to put coercive measures against Japan, and in particular, because of the globalization and because of the deepening of the interdependence, the relationship between Japan and China, the government-to-government relationship, the political and the military relationship is getting bitter and bitter, but the economically there is a much wider spread of the interdependence on the both sides. So, so Japan clearly recognized that this is the threat. And I think what is interesting about the Japanese concept of the economic security is somewhat different from what is understood in the context of the United States, because in the United States, the economic security is more or less focusing on the supply chain resilience from either intentional or non-intentional supply chain disruptions. For example, the hurricanes, typhoons, tornadoes, these are the kind of natural causes that may disrupt the supply chain, or also COVID and the lockdown and the lack of personnel, lack of logistics. These are also the these have certain impact on the supply chain. But the United States consider that these are all inclusive to the economic security, whereas in Japan, the economic security is something that is created intentionally, and therefore we are preparing to strengthen our supply chain, or strengthen the resilience of the supply chain from those intentional attacks. Of course, Japan has natural disasters like earthquake, tsunami, typhoons, etc. But these risks are not being considered as a security risks, but safety risks. So that we need to be resilient, we need to prepare, we need to build up a preparedness, but as a security strategy, the economic security is aiming at to withdraw and reduce the risks of over-depending on the countries like China, which potentially be a strategic competitor to Japan. So the concept of the economic security has engaged and realized through the Economic Security Promotion Act, or ESPA, and this ESPA was established May last year, 2022, and these are focusing on improving the supply chain resilience and also the protection of the critical infrastructure. But furthermore, it is focusing on developing the science and technology capabilities for the dual-use items, because Japan's economic security is not only talking about the strategic autonomy, but also the strategic indispensability, which means that Japan will develop its own industrial and technological capabilities that will attract the foreign investors and foreign partners. And also, even the hostile countries will depend on Japan for the supply of the certain technologies or certain goods that may become as a leverage against the other countries. So if some countries like China depends on Japan, then if there is the possibility that China is exercising this economic coercion, we may have certain deterrence against China. If they do so, then we will have enough capabilities of retaliating to such an economic coercion. So this is a concept of economic security, and which was embedded in the national security strategy. And I think this is still an embryonic stage, but I think growingly it requires more cooperation with the United States, strengthening the friendshoring, and make sure that we will be able to have the division of labor of certain goods. And of course, we will aim at the same objectives and facing with the same challenges. So I think the cooperation between Japan and the United States, as well as Japan, Australia, Japan, India, and many other work together with the like-minded countries is important. And I think this will be the sort of a new domain of the bilateral and multilateral cooperation for improving the national security. So I'll stop here. Thank you very much. Tatsumi-san, are you still there?
So it looks like Yuki is still trying to reconnect here, but at the moment we're trying to get another person to moderate in the meantime. Probably to just get things going at this moment, maybe we can start with a Q&A question.
I'm sorry, the audio just came back.
Oh, great.
The audio just came back, so great. So everybody's done. So I guess now that we have a new thing. I think next thing I would like is, as Japan try to implement this new strategy, there will be some challenges. So I would like to turn to that aspect before go to the Q&A with the audience. So since I start from you, Fukushima-san's for the first question, I will start with Suzuki-san. So what kind of challenges lies ahead? You talk about different things, various things in your piece, but on the challenges on the economic security realm.
Right. Well, the challenges is, well, there are many challenges, and this is a new domain in the first place. It is difficult to get the sort of a level playing field against China, because the international trade rules are not really functioning because of the lack of the power to implement the WTO rules. China is applying for the CPTPP. That's another challenge, but I think there is a very strong skepticism both in Japan and the other CPTPP countries for that China will respect the international rules. And also we are lacking the power of United States in such a domain for balancing the power of China against in the free trade world. So I think the role of United States, or the attitude of United States towards free trade, is another big issue. And I think the economic security, the difference between the military security and economic security is that the economic security, we involve a lot of companies, the businesses. The government needs to communicate and control the behavior of the businesses, which is not easy. You can regulate, but that there will be a backlash from the business interest. So business has an interest, the government has interest, and somewhat, these interests may not align together. So I think, how to align the national strategy and the company strategy together and facing, or that are directing in the same direction is a big challenge, not only for Japan, but also for United States and everywhere else. I'll stop here.
Thank you. Osawa-san, sorry to keep you in the middle, but what about cybersecurity?
Actually, the new national security strategy surprisingly set very high goals. As follows, the response capability in the field of cybersecurity should be strengthened equal to or surpassing the level of leading Western country, including United States. So it is quite high level of the policy goal. So, however, there are various challenges for Japan to build cybersecurity, cyber response capability as the same as the advanced cyber countries in European and the United States. I think there are two major challenges in the cyber area to establish a posture for information warfare and active cyber defense. Now, first is an extensive legislation, and the second one is to establish structure of the 24 hours, 365 days operation structure. So in Japan, the degree of difficulty is likely to be high due to the history of discussion on the secrecy of communications. One of the legal obstacles to promoting the active cyber defense is the Constitution's law and the provision regarding to the secrecy of the communication, especially the Constitution of the Article 21, Section 2, states the censorship shall not be allowed to the government. And the telecommunication business law also stipulates the relevant provision in response to this. So I think this kind of change of law and extensive legislation is the first of all the quite high challenges for the Japanese government to change. And the second point is we have to establish the structure for operations. And active cyber defense requires the 24 hours real-time response to the cyber attack. So it's like the crisis management organization, but we don't have the same kind of crisis management organization in cyber domain now in the Japanese government. So we have to change the NISC to these kind of the security operation organization, same as the DHS in the United States or DoD or FBI in the United States. So this could be difficult for the government because we lack of the specialized personnel, such as the data analyst, psychological expert, or marketing professional, or public relations expert. We don't have these kind of specialized personnel in the government. So we have to gather these kind of past expert to the operational organization. This is the second challenges for the government to implement the cyber domain in the national security strategy. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Beth. Last but not least, Fukushima-san, Japan also, just as cyber, I think Japan's national security put out the rather high aspirational goal for space area, space policy area as well. So I wonder, I would be curious to hear your thoughts on what the challenges may be.
Well, indeed, well, the latest 3 strategic documents are setting quite high goal, as Osawa Sensei said. And now, as many experts have already pointed out that those documents are well written, but implementing the plans stated in those documents is not easy. Actually, the 2022 NSS clearly states that the strategy will fulfill its complete purpose only when its contents are to be executed. Therefore, the above-mentioned space programs need to be implemented within a defined time frame. Especially critical consideration is that the acquisition of ISRT satellites need to keep pace with the acquisition of standard defense capabilities. Although the JMOD has yet to announce details about the constellation, it could consist of a minimum of several dozen Earth observation satellites to be placed in low Earth orbit, or LEO. So far, however, no company in Japan has built or operated a satellite constellation of such a scale, nor does the JMOD have any experience operating an LEO satellite constellation. In this regard, a strategy worth pursuing is for Japan's public and private sector to cooperate with the US companies that possess the expertise necessary to develop and operate such constellations. Additionally, it would be advantageous for Japan to consider cooperation with US on space-based ISRT. Well, actually now, the US Department of the Air Force is conducting a study together with the National Reconnaissance Office on Ground Moving Target Indicators, or GMTI. The Space Development Agency of the US Space Force also intends to develop the custody layer to provide 24/7 all-weather custody of time-sensitive rest-of-launch surface mobile targets as part of the planned proliferated warfighter space architecture, utilizing commercial services and other resources. thus, Japan's plan to acquire satellite constellation for ISRT will bring about new opportunities in addition to challenges. And especially, it would bring a new opportunity for Japan and United States to cooperate in the space domain more deeply. And at the same time, given the time it takes to build such satellite constellation for ISRT, I think that the GSDF needs to ensure that commercial satellite imagery can be used effectively in operations. Actually, now in Ukraine, the Ukrainian army is actually quite effectively utilizing commercial satellite imagery for their operations. So probably Japan can learn a lot from what the Ukrainian military is now doing on the ground. Well, I'll stop there. Thank you.
Thank you. So thank you all three. I would like to go into the Q&A with the audience for the rest of the session. I got a couple of questions right here. First question is about, I think this is probably in the realm of either Osawa-san or Fukushima-san. The question is, do you think Japan needs a similar system like the Iron Dome, such as the ones being installed in Israel? I think maybe I'll go to you, Fukushima-san, first, and then if Osawa-san or Suzuki-san, of course, if you have anything to add, please jump in.
Oh, well, thank you so much for that question. Well, I hear a lot of news about the utilization of Iron Dome in Israel, but unfortunately, I'm not familiar with the detail of this system. That said, the IAMD, integrated air and missile defense, is quite a pressing issue in Japan. Obviously, now, well, Japan is surrounded by countries which have robust missile capabilities. So, as you may know, now Japan Ministry of Defense operates several types of missile defense systems, including PAC-3 for terminal phase, and also SM-3 for mid-course intercepting. And as far as I understand, now the JMOD is planning to develop additional capabilities for IAMD. For example, now HGVs, hypersonic glider vehicles, is actually quite a big concern for Japan. So as far as I understand now, the ministry is planning to develop an interceptor to address such threats. And in addition, reportedly, probably Japan may develop capabilities to intercept drones. So, my short question is that I'm not sure Japan may pursue procuring Iron Dome, but Japan would definitely is now aiming to increase its capabilities for IAMD. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Osawa-san or Suzuki-san, do you have anything to add?
I have the quite short answer to the questionnaire. So Israel can protect its country and its territory not only by the missile defense systems such as Iron Dome, but also Israel has the attacking capability against the enemy of Israel. But Japan is the situation difference. We have the missile defense system, including the SM-3 and the PAC-3 and the middle range of the SAM, as the Fukushima sensei said. But we don't have the long-range attacking missile until now. So we decided in the new cybersecurity strategy to have the long-range attacking capability, including the Tomahawk from the United States, and we will improve the 12 style, 1-2 style short-range missile extend to more than 1,000 kilometers. So I think not only Iron Dome style, but also we decided to have the some kind of attacking capability for the deterrence purpose. So that's my answer to the questionnaire. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Osawa-san. Next question is on the economic security. So I think this is squarely on Suzuki-san's realm. So thank you for the interesting input. The audience's question is, what does the economic security strategy mean for Japan when it comes to the economic cooperation with countries in the Middle East and North Africa region?
Well, thank you very much for the question. The economic security, by all means, is not the strategy to not just cooperate. The cooperation is one way to put certain let's say it's a positive sanctions. So if you provide the economic official development aid, that is to achieve certain strategic goals. But economic security strategy is more defensive. So basically, it is to reduce the dependency on certain items on the certain countries. And yes, of course, the Middle East and North African regions, the most strategic issue is in oil and natural gas. And Japan was trying to diversify the supply of the oil and the natural gas. For the natural gas, we are not depending on the Middle East. The largest provider of the natural gas is Australia. And then we are also buying the natural gas from Indonesia. So we are reducing the dependency on the Middle East and North African regions, but to diversify the supply chain. Nevertheless, in terms of oil, we are still depending 80% of oil coming from the Middle East. So for Japan, the oil dependency on the MENA region is still a vulnerability. But this vulnerability from the economic security perspective, it can be reduced by establishing a good relationship, the good security relationship with the country in the Middle East and North African regions. We have a long-standing tradition of the working with both Saudi Arabia and Iran, which are recently re-established its normal relationship. And also Japan has the balancing with the Arab countries and Israel. So Japan is trying to be the sort of a multilateral player in the Middle East in order to secure the supply will continue, well, the oil will continue to supply constantly for Japan. And I think this is the another side of the economic security strategy.
Thank you. Next question, again, is on the space. I guess a lot of people are interested in Japan's space policy moving forward. The growing importance of space as a strategic domain for military operations and increasing competition between countries in space. Do you think Japan is ready to create a space force that could be responsible for conducting space operations?
Well, thank you so much for that question. Well, I like that question very much. And so the National Defense Strategy in 2022, actually that document was approved by the cabinet together with the National Security Strategy. states that well, Japan will rebrand and restructure the current Air Self-Defense Force to the Air and Space Self-Defense Force. And also the Defense Build-Up Program, which was also approved by the Cabinet last December, stipulates that, well, is another space dedicated unit, actually commanded by a general officer, which means that could be a major general or lieutenant general, will be established under the Air Self-Defense Force. So in the near future, it is supposed so we can expect that Air and Space Self-Defense Force will be created. That said, so far, while human resources regarding space issues within the Japan Ministry of Defense is extremely limited. Well, the resources are expanding quite rapidly, but still limited. So, so now I would say the personnel within the Space Operations Group is around between 100 and 200 personnel. So compare with like the US Space Force, which has around 16,000 personnel, well, including both uniform and civilian. Well, still, well, the SDF space resources, human resources are quite limited. So it is improbable that Japan would create a truly independent space force in the foreseeable future. I'll stop there. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Fukushima-san. So we have about 2 minutes, and this is, I guess, I don't know which one to give you this question. How will Japan's falling birth rate impact its future ability to maintain self-defense force? Anyone would like to pitch in that one? Maybe Osawa-san, since you're nodding, maybe I'll go to you first, and then this will be a collective effort.
Okay, thank you very much for the very important question, because the this problem is the headache every self-defense force officers. Now we have to, I think, shape up the operational structure of the self-defense force. Now, for example, the Maritime Self-Defense Force introduced a new type of multi-purpose frigate in 2019. So the new this Mogami class multi-purpose frigate requires only 90 sailors and officers to operate her. So the Japanese Navy decided to reduce the operational structure to operate each of the new types of the frigate and the cruiser and other ships. So we have to think about these kind of shape up the structure of the operation, but it will be difficult for the land-based self-defense force to maintain the division and the brigade in their military force structure. So I think that it could be it will be a big problem for the long-term perspective for the self-defense force operational capability. So that's my answer. Thank you very much.
I'll
Thank
pitch
you.
in a little for the collective
Yes.
effort.
Awesome.
I think Alexander Ors is working on this issue, but I think one of the things that he mentioned, and I think it is important to mention, is that it's not only Japan which is declining the birth rate. South Korea, Singapore, and even China is having a significant birth rate drop. And of course, the size of Chinese population is much, much bigger, but so it doesn't seem to have a very immediate effect, but still Chinese drop of the birth rate and the shrink of the younger generation is extremely serious. So I think everyone in the East Asia is facing the same challenges, and I think everyone in East Asia is going to go for more autonomous capabilities, the more unmanned vehicles, and there will be a more different strategic and tactical operations that requires less people. So I think this technological investment is going to be the key for maintaining to maintain the military balance and strategic balances. So therefore, it is extremely important. I mean, at the economic security, for example, the United States strengthening the export control of the semiconductor against China. This is something that is important because China is driving towards more unmanned machineries and unmanned equipments to make up with the decline of the younger generation. So I think these kind of things is clearly linked between the technological advancement and the decline of the population in East Asia. And I think this is something that we need to watch out for the next decade to identify who is really adjusting to this situation. So that will be the sort of a new strategic and important understanding of the military situation in East Asia.
Thank you. And we are at the end of the hour. So I'm sorry for those of you whom question I couldn't get to. If your question pertains to anything more about hardcore defense issues or defense exchanges with the various parts of the world, we may be able to address that this Friday's session, which also starts from 10 o'clock. Well, hold on a minute. Let me get the time zone right. 9:30 a.m. to 11 o'clock a.m. Washington, East Coast Daylight Saving Time, which is 10:30 p.m. to midnight in Japan time. So if you can chime in those, if we couldn't get to your question and your question pertains to any of those areas, we look forward to having you again. And other than that, I thank you again for our three speakers. Sorry that my online glitch made schedule a little bit. I'm really sorry about that. I scared myself too. But with that, this will conclude the webinar. But very quickly for the last, this series of commentaries are being printed as we speak, so we should be able to put it up on a PDF version of the website, hopefully by the end of the week, and if not, by sometime next week at the latest. So please do check our website for that as well. So with that, thank you, Osawa-san, Fukushima-san, and Suzuki-san for joining us. And hope you all will have a good rest of the day wherever your time zone may be. Thank you. And we'll hope to see many of you back on our last webinar on this session on